Good morning, students. The next topic that we are going to study is on social groups. Okay, social group is a collection of people. Okay, so what is the definition of social group? A social group is a system of social interaction, according to Harry Johnson. It's a simple definition that I have given you. Social group is a system of social interaction. That means a group of people talking to each other or interacting with each other is called as a social group. Then the other definition is it is a collection of human beings who are brought into human relationships with one another, according to Marshall Jones. Social groups is a collection of human beings who are brought into human relationships with one another. For example, your batch of first year medical sociology, you are a collection of human beings who are brought into human relationships with one another. So you understand the meaning of social groups. Any group of people who are brought together and they have interaction with each other is called as a social group. So every social group has some characters. You can think of your course, your batch as a social group. That itself will make you to understand this concept of characteristics of social groups. I'm just going to list the main 10 characteristics. First is it is a collection of individuals. We already in the definition we saw it's a collection of people. So a group is a collection of individuals. It consists of people. So without individuals there cannot be any group. So in a college the students form the group, the teachers form the group, or in a religious institution the members of the community form the group who are having the same religion. So same way the whole city of Vellore we form a group. So like that it's a collection of individuals. And then in the social group there is interaction among the members. This also we saw in the definition, a group of people who have interaction among each other. So man is a social animal. We keep coming to this concept. So a social animal means they talk with each other and there is interaction. Without interaction a human being cannot live all alone, just walking on his own. Then it's like a dead person walking if the person does not have anybody to talk to and there is no interaction. So in any group there is social interaction. Okay, then there is mutual awareness. That means everybody knows about the other people, so at least some aspects. So in your own batch you all know where the next person's, your friend's father is working, where their house is, what is their phone number. So you are aware of the other person's some of the personal details. So this mutual awareness. Then you have the we feeling. That means, do you feel that your batch is the first year medical sociology? That kind of feeling that you have a group. Same way if you take your family, for example, my family, we are a family. So that kind of feeling that you have within the members of that particular group is called the we feeling. So one characteristic of social group is people have the we feeling. Then group unity and solidarity. Any group will have unity. Of the 15 people in your batch, maybe one or two you may not have unity, you may have fights, but generally there is a unity. Even in the society, if you take a particular religion or a particular caste, for example, they have the unity within there may be some problems, people may not be always united, but there is some sort of unity and solidarity. Then people of that particular group have common interests. So all of you want to study medical sociology, all of you want to get a job in social work or medical sociology field. So like that a lab technician will want to get a work in the lab area. So people within the same group have common interests. Okay, so all the students, if you take, instead of taking medical sociology and lab, if you take the whole college students collectively, what are the interests of all the college students? You want to play games on your cell phones, you want to use mobile phones, you want to watch a particular serial on TV. So you have some common interest, or you want to play together. So each group, like political groups, religious groups, they all have some common interest. For example, the BJP government, they have one common interest. The Congress government, they'll have one common interest. ADMK, DMK, each group has their own interest. So that is another characteristic of groups. Then group norms. Every group has a norm, that is rules. that has to be followed. For example, in your class, what are the rules? You yourself will be saying, okay, we have to study well, we have to work hard, we have to get a job. So this is your idea. So for to achieve that, you make sure that you follow certain rules, you follow the rules of the college. So every group, whether it's a tribal group or a modern group, every group has their own rules. Then size of the group. The size of the group is very important. There are some small groups, there are large groups. So smallest group may be even two people. For example, in a family, if the husband and wife is there, they themselves form a group. Same way, if the political party like the Bharatiya Janata Party, BJP, or ADMK or Congress or DMK, if you take, there are millions of people. So the size of group varies from 2 people to lakhs of people. And groups are dynamic, that is, the groups will not be static. They will always be in action. So if you are static, that means there is no change in your group, then there is no progress in your group. So only when there is dynamic, there is movement. For example, within the family, old people will die and soon young children will be born in any family. So that small family group is also dynamic. Whereas in large groups like political parties, one person goes from one party to another party, new people join. So like that, there is always dynamic movement in the groups. Then most of the groups are stable. Some groups are temporary in nature, they are formed for a particular reason and then they are not there. Whereas most groups are stable. For example, political party, the Congress party has been there for more than 100 years. The DMK and ADMK has been there more than 30-40 years. So like that, every group will have stability and it will exist for a long time. Okay, so next we'll go to the group structure. Who forms the group, how the group is, what does the group contain? For example, the group structure is developed to regulate the actions of its members. We already saw that every group has stability, they have norms. Okay, other than that, there are people in position. For example, in the college, there is a principal, there are teachers, and within your own class there is a class rep and assistant rep, things like that. In a political party, the head of the political party is there. So every group has a person in authority, person in other positions, and people with responsibility. So this is one structure in the group. It forms the structure. So if there is no head and no members, then the group will not be functioning. Because there is a head of the group, there are other people in other positions and they have responsibilities, the group will function in a normal way. And then there are types of groups. There are primary groups and secondary groups. I'll explain what is primary, secondary later. In a primary group, there is a definite boundary. One example is the family. You know in your family who are all the members. If there are 5 people in the family, or 6 people, 10 people in the family, or only 2 people in the family, you know that these are the members of the family, because primary groups are usually smaller, whereas secondary groups are like the political parties, that is large in number. Nobody will know how many people are there, because people will come in, people will go out, so there will be constant movement of people between groups. So these kind of groups, because of its large size, there is no definite boundary, and you won't know how many people are there exactly, because people keep changing all the time. Then, as we already saw, the group should have a hierarchy of relationships. For example, there should be a leader, then assistant leaders, then other members with specific responsibilities. So even in a hospital like Karigiri, the employees have relationships and they have qualities. Each person has a particular role. A doctor has a role of doing surgery or seeing patients. A nurse has the role of doing some other things. So every person has responsibilities and relationships. This forms the group structure. It's like for a human being, the skeleton forming the structure of the human body. Same way for the group, these are the things which form the structure. Then we'll see the importance of social groups. Why are social groups important? Just imagine, within your class, why is a group of students important? Okay, because The first thing is survival becomes problematic without groups. For example, if you are not having a particular group, then outsiders can influence your group and you will have a lot of problems. For example, if India does not have an Indian army is a group of people having a particular role. So you can say Indian army is a type of group. So if that group is not there, what will happen? Pakistan will invade India, China will invade India. So every group is there so that members of the group can survive. Otherwise there will be problems and other groups will take over. So this is one important function of a group. The next one is human beings are humans only among men. That is, man becomes man only among men. So if you are only with other people, then you are a human being. If you are alone and not talking with anybody, then we cannot consider you as a human being, because man is a social animal. If you do not have any interaction, if you do not have any relationship with other people, then human beings cannot be human beings. So can you imagine any one person just sitting alone all the day without talking to anybody, even the parents, friends, teachers, without talking to anybody? Can they survive in this world? No, they cannot survive. So man is man only among men, or you can say humans are humans only among other humans. Then groups help in social survival. So just like the first point, there will be problems if there are no groups. Then the survival itself is based on groups. For example, if you take the religious people or even the tribes, tribal people live in remote areas. They have groups. If they are individuals, then it is easy for their tribe to be completely vanished, because only when they live as groups they help each other and there is support for each other, and they will be able to survive for longer periods of time. Individuals, if they are alone, even if they become sick, there is nobody to help, and so it's easy for a tribe to get completely vanished from the face of the earth. So groups are very important so that for the survival. Now we come to an important part of the social groups, which is the classification of social groups. This is a common question in 3 marks and 5 marks. You get questions about in groups and out groups, primary groups and secondary groups. So we are going to see what are in groups and out groups and other groups. Okay, so we already said social groups examples are family and political parties and things like that. So the groups can be formed based on racial features, religious beliefs. For example, in US, the white people are a group, the Spanish people are a group, Mexican people are a group, all the Indians in the America, they form a group. Like that, they all together are Americans, but within their own country there are different groups. Same way in India, for example, India, all of us together are Indians as a group, but within that we tell I am a Malayali, I am a Tamilian, I am a Telugu person. So we have our own groups, and within the state we say I am from Vellore, so all the Vellore people, you form a group. So like that, different people have different groups based on their territory, religious beliefs, racial features, government, size, caste, age, sex, class, occupation, type of course they are doing in a particular college, or the college that you are studying. So all these features, they classify into different social groups. So we'll just see other classification, which is in group and out group. This classification was given by a sociologist, W.G. Summer, in his book Folkways. Okay, so this is mainly based on the psychological factors rather than external physical factors. What one person thinks, how they think of their group in the mind. So for example, if you have your own family, what do you think of your family? Whether you think of them as the in group or the out group, or if you are classmates or friends. So how do you form the in group? So let's see what is in group and out group. In group is a group of people to which you feel that you belong. So now you think in your mind, do you feel that you belong to your family? Do you think you belong to India Do you think you belong to Tamil Nadu? Yes, you would have answered yes to all these questions because you feel that you belong to this country, you feel you belong to this state, and you feel you belong to this family in which you are born. Whereas, do you feel that you belong to uh, the sociologists in this world? May not be, because you still have not completed your course, you have not started a job. Once you start your job, if you like your job as a sociologist, then you'll feel that you're part of the sociologist community, but you're too young now to feel part of that community. So that is your out group. It is not, you're still not part of the group, but you have some relationship with that group. So now you know the difference between an in-group and an out-group. In-group, you feel you belong to that group. You identify yourself in a positive direction. And then you have the we feeling. You feel that you and the others are part of that group. Do you feel that always me and my parents and my brothers and sisters in your family? That means you have that we feeling. So that is what it means by we feeling. Then you have people you relate to in the group, then it is a in group. For example, in your family you have a relationship with everybody, that is the in group. And then all the people in your family or in your in groups have the same kind of attitude and behavior, and you support each other. So these are all features of the in group. So I hope you understood what in group is. It is a group to which you feel that you belong, and you have the we feeling, and you have similar attitudes, behaviors, and you support each other and all that. Okay, the opposite is the out group. It is still a group to which you belong, but you are not 100% do not have the we feeling. You feel that there is a group, but you are either inside or outside, and you feel that all the members are they are not very close to you. For example, all the members of your caste, you do not know 100% all the members of your caste. All of you belong to a particular caste. Same way, all of you belong to a particular religion. Do you know everybody's name in your religion? No. So you won't feel that they are part of you. You still belong to that group, but you're not feeling, you do not have that we feeling. You feel that they are other people. So you do not have always the same kind of attitude and behavior, and you have only less support to this group, and the group also gives only less support. There is not a good compact close relationship in the out group. So this is the difference between the in group and out group. Examples of in group is the family or your own classmates or like that. Out group are the religions and the caste system. So these groups are out groups. But sometimes the in group and out group relationships are overlapping. That is normal, because you are part of the in group and you feel that you belong to the group, but also you belong to the out group. So there are times when your relationships overlap. For example, your whole family will belong to a particular community or a particular religion. So you belong to the other group also, and sometimes you feel that you're part of both groups. Okay, so that is why the in group and out group relationships overlap some of the times, because as part of the religion, same religion, you will have common interests with people of the other your religion. Suppose you are a Christian, for example, then you feel that you belong to all the people who are Christians. You together form a group, but at the same time it is not as close as a family relationship. Same thing for a Hindu or a Muslim. You all belong to that particular religion, but you also feel that you are not very close to all the members. So that there is overlap between in groups and out groups. Then what is the influence of the in group and out group? We already saw in group has more influence. The people have much more intimate relationships. They are helpful to each other and dependable. On the other hand, the out groups, people are less intimate, because you don't even know all the members' names. You don't know where they are. So there is, people are not dependable, and sometimes there can be enmity also between the group members. So that is the difference between in groups and out groups. This we have already seen. How does the in group and out group affect your behavior? For example, when you are within your in group, that is when you are within your family or other in groups, you feel that you are recognized, because your parents, they spend time with you, they talk to you. Your brothers and sisters, they spend time with you, they talk to you. So okay, so the next classification after the in group and out group is the primary and secondary groups. Okay, so what are primary and secondary groups? This classification was given by C.H. Cooley, who is a sociologist. So primary groups are very similar to the in groups. That is, you form the people who are members of your family, members of your close circle, that is your neighbors and your children's playmates and your gang of friends or your own batchmates in medical sociology. You all form the primary groups. That is, you have a good relationship, you meet each other almost every day, you will identify the person by face, that is the face-to-face relationships. So that is the first characteristic of primary groups. There is a face-to-face relation. For example, can you identify every member of your religion by face? No. You may know a few people, but you don't know everybody. Whereas, do you know every person in your own batch of first year medical sociology by face? Do you know their names? Yes. Do you know your family members' names? Do you see them every day? Yes, almost every day. So this kind of relationship where you have face-to-face relationship, that you see the face of the other person almost every day, that kind of relationship, that you know the person's name, you know the person's status, wealth, level of education. So that kind of relationship where you are very close, that you almost know everything about the other person, that relationship is the primary group. So members of the family, neighborhood, your own classmates, they are all in the primary group. So this relationship is usually personal. That's the second characteristic of primary groups. You know what is almost everything about the other person in your group. So it is a personal relationship. So that is part of the primary group, another characteristic. Then the relationship is spontaneous. That is, nobody tells you to have a relationship. It just happens by itself. Did anybody tell you to be born in your family? No, you were born by chance. It just happened spontaneously. Same way, did anybody tell you you have to all join together in medical sociology? No, you just applied, you got the course, you became classmates by chance. So this kind of relationship in primary groups is spontaneous, and usually the primary groups are smaller in size. For example, family. That is why you are able to see each other face to face almost every day. There is an intimate relationship because of the small size of the primary group. Then next thing is the physical proximity or nearness. So that is again because it's a close knit small family or a small group, you are close to each other. Not close in the sense not mentally close, but even physically close, sitting next to each other or spending time with each other. For example, your classmates, every day when you have class, you sit next to each other. Your family members, every day when you eat dinner or lunch, you sit with them. So that physical proximity is present in a primary group. Then stability of the group. Usually the primary group is a permanent group and the social ties are deep, they are stronger, so there is more stability. Then there is similarity of background. That is, for example, if we take your batch of first year medical sociology, all of you have finished 12th standard, all of you are nearly the same age, so you have similarity in the background. Same way, if you take the family members, for example, you all have the same religion, you all have the same likes and dislikes, you all eat the same food, so there is similarity in background of the primary group members. Then there is limited self-interest. That is, the people have interest on the other people also. In your own group, you like the other people and have their interest as primary. For example, if your parents tell you to do something, you want to help your parents. That is the limited self-interest. You do not want to overrule your parents. So that limited self-interest is there in primary groups. Then the communication is very good in primary groups because it's a close group, it is a small group, there is good communication between the members, and we already saw that we have face-to-face relationship with all the primary group members. This allows for better communication. Then there is direct cooperation. So these are the characteristics of primary groups. Because you are close to each other, there is a common sharing experience, and there is direct cooperation. Next we come to the secondary groups. Secondary groups are like the out groups. There are less face-to-face relationships, and the opposite of whatever you said for the primary groups you can say here. And if in the exam you are asked a question, difference between primary and secondary groups, you can tell in primary group there is face-to-face relationship, there is intimacy, there is closeness, there is people have helping each other, stability. All the opposite things will be there for the secondary groups. There is less intimacy, people are not very close with each other, but they are more formal relationship. Family is like a more informal, stable relationship. Whereas secondary groups, example can be your political organization or religious organizations. So these are all secondary groups where you are a part of the group, but you don't have that intimacy with all the members. Maybe you have intimacy, closeness with some of the members, but not with all the members. Then the characteristics of the secondary groups. The first one is there is dominance of secondary relations. So secondary relationship is impersonal, it is indirect, it is not very direct and personal like the primary group. So here it is a different kind of relationship, and mainly it is the secondary relationship which is indirect and impersonal. These are two important words when you say about secondary relationships. Then the largeness of the size of the group. We saw in primary groups it is small group because it's a family, it's a college classmates or friends. Whereas in the secondary groups, for example, members of the city of Vellore or members of the state or members of India, you are all part of a larger group, which is a secondary group. So here the group size is very large. There is millions and millions of people in this group. Then secondary group membership is voluntary. For example, primary group membership was spontaneous. Nobody told you to be born in the family, nobody told you to join sociology, it happened. Whereas if you want, you can become member of a political party, if you want, you can become a member of a religious organization, but if you don't want, you can avoid also. So the membership of a secondary group is voluntary, there is no compulsion, it is your choice. Then there is no physical basis, that is, there is no closeness, physical closeness between members of the group. For example, you are a part of India, same way a person living in Delhi is also a part of India. You form the same group, that is group called Indians, but there is no physical proximity between you. So that is the next point. Then there is very little specific interest between the group members. So there is a general interest, like all of you are Indians, all of us are part of the same religion, all of us are part of the same caste, but we do not have very specific interest which is common with each other. Then the communication is indirect, there is no direct communication because you do not meet face to face, you do not have regular communication between the members. So the communication between members of a secondary group is indirect. And the type of social control is moral control and also formal control. So for example, in your family, your mother and father will have a different type of control over you, whereas here in a secondary group, the country has police people, army, so they have a different type of control over the members. Then the group structure, we already saw the first topic of this chapter, the type of social group. The secondary group, the members are less rigid, that is, you can have membership or you need not have membership. So the group structure is less rigid. Whereas in a family, your father will always be the father, your mother will always be the mother, your brother or sister will always be your brother or sister. that cannot change. Your father cannot become the mother, mother cannot become the father. Whereas in a secondary group, the group structure keeps changing. It is more dynamic and it changes based on various factors. Example of secondary groups, we already told: political party, religious groups, industrial workers, business associates, and company employees. All these are secondary groups. Then we come to something called as reference group. So what is a reference group? Reference group means people who don't belong to that group but follow the particular way of life. For example, you may not be member of the group, but still you follow the traditions of the group. For example, the food habits of a particular group you follow, the dressing style or the customs, traditions of a group which you follow. Then those are the reference groups. Okay, you refer to that group, means you look at that group and follow some of the good things in your own life. So that is the reference group. For example, school, in your own school, when you were in 8th standard, for example, did you look at a 12th standard boy or girl and think, okay, I should be like that person, I should dress like that person, he looks very smart? And then did you change your behavior? Or did you look at the cricket players and did you change your behavior? Or did you look at the film actor or actress and change your behavior? Then those people are the reference group. That is, you look at them and modify your lifestyle. So it can be your religious organization, or it can be a cultural thing, or movie stars, athletes. So even your own parents, if you look at them and modify your behavior and refer to them, then they are part of the reference group. Okay, then we come to what is called as a small group. Small group is very important because even in leprosy we have group behavior. That is, all the people who have leprosy are made to sit together and do exercise together. They are told to discuss with each other their problems. So this helps in improving the treatment of the people. So that is why small group is very important in medical sociology. Usually small groups have 3 to 15 members. Okay, and they have a specific objective. That is, they have one particular task in mind. For example, if you take the group of leprosy patients, for example, their task is to find out solutions, how to overcome a particular problem. If they have anesthesia in the leg, that is, if they do not have sensation in the leg, they will get wounds. So how to prevent the wounds, or how to treat the wounds, how to include the family in the treatment. So they discuss with each other about their own problems. So that is the types of small groups. They have a specific task in mind. Then some examples of small groups are families, social clubs, and these groups, they are formed for the to help each other, for their safety, to improve their self-esteem, and to have a feeling of togetherness. So that is the reason for these small groups. Then there are also work groups. Okay, work group means, for example, in your workplace, if you are joining a work, then if you are given a particular job, for example, in the IT company, a group of people work on a particular project, so they are called the work group. So they are given a particular job, they have to finish the job within a short time. So mostly in IT companies they have work groups. Same way in the hospital, a team of people who are doing surgery for a patient, they form a particular work group. So their job is to do the surgery and make sure that the patient is better, patient gets well. So this type of groups is in the workplace or campus. So this is work group. Then the next group is the economic group. Economic group is mainly based on the income. For example, economy means income and expenditure. So if a particular group is involved in the work so that they are able to earn the living, then that is economic group. For example, people who are doing the agriculture in a particular village, they discuss with each other how to improve the agriculture, how to increase the crops, how to give water to the crops. So that kind of relationship is called the economic group, because they work together to improve their income. Okay, Then comes the political group. Political group, as we know, in all the political parties, they form the political group. So they are members who try to control the society. So they have people who are seeking power. So they want to promote their own interests. First, they want to become the political people want to become members of the government. So their aim is to work towards the welfare of the society. They want to get power from the people so that in turn they can help the other people to function. So political people, what do? They do nomination, canvassing, campaigning. So that is their role before they are elected. After they are elected, then they work for the people. And this is not a very rigid or stable group, because people move from one group to another. So the ultimate aim of the political group is to do good for the public and make sure that they satisfy the public. Next we come to the religious group. Religious group, again, all the members of a particular religion, they form the religious group. So people of the same religious group will have same beliefs, they have same practices, and they have similar concepts. So this is the relationship between the religious groups. So the important functions of religious group is all the members are expected to follow the religion, and they have a similarity in that they worship the same God. Okay, so that is the relationship between the members of the religious group. Then these people also serve the poor and the needy. Especially during coronavirus, we saw that each religious group, they started helping the people in their surrounding area. So they are serving the poor and the needy people, and then they help in education. So religious groups is another type of group. So religious groups, political groups, economic groups, work groups, and small groups, these are other types of groups which are doing specific functions. Okay, so with this we finish the social groups. Next we'll go to social control and then social process. Thank you.